Hi everyone, it is Wednesday, it's 4:30 p.m. Central Time-ish. Welcome to our office hours here on the Academy, and welcome back, Andrew. It's great to have you back here.
It's so good to be back. Thanks.
Are you ready for our little intro? I am.
Absolutely.
All right, welcome to our office hours here on the Academy. This is where you can learn about MDT, Intune, ConfigMgr. We typically spend some time sharing updates from the last week, 15-20 minutes-ish. And then we are around for asking any questions you might have on those platforms. I have to say, while I apparently survived the last week on my onesies here on my own, it's not the same without you, Andrew. It should be this always.
I appreciate that. I love this. I did happen to, as you know, sneak in under the radar for a moment last week, and I have to say you were doing a great job without me. I think that you've done this once or twice before.
Yeah, that was a bold move, especially since you've been told not to.
I know. I hope that the boss didn't notice.
We'll see. Maybe they catch the recording, maybe they don't. You never know.
You never know.
But what's up other than you being back, which is a great news. But what else?
Well, not only am I back, I'm feeling better. I had the distinct displeasure of dealing with the virus that shall not be named for the second time. Luckily, not as bad as the first, but that's enough on that. We have some news that has... we've got some news. Yeah, absolutely. Like we do every week, right? Mm-hmm. Community's busy. Microsoft's busy. If you like to share my screen, I've got a few things that I could share with our viewers.
I will, and I shall.
Look at that.
And I did.
That looks like my screen. All right. So the first couple of things that I came across were from Microsoft. First thing here from Mike Donosky mentioned that the import... soon we'll be able to import and export settings from the settings catalog, or configuration profiles that use the settings catalog, rather. And in his tweet here, he has a link to test this out early, which I thought was pretty cool. So if I go to this link... Have you seen this yet, Johan?
No, I've not. I read about it, but I haven't tried it or seen it.
That's pretty cool. So if we choose any of our settings catalog profiles here, we can click the ellipsis over here and export JSON. And then if we need to create a new profile, we just go up to Create and Import Policy. And then it's going to look for one of those files, and we'll have a new policy created from that import. Now, of course, we've talked about many, many, many times on office hours that the community has filled this gap for a long time, being able to import and export several policies, profiles, things like that. This is a great first step, in my opinion, to having this natively available. This is awesome.
It is nice. Finally. I mean,
Yes. Yes, you said it best. But it's here. It's coming. According to Mike's tweet, it should be launching this month, which will be great. It looks very similar to the import-export in conditional access as well. So hopefully you'll be able to do some automation around this as well. Though I guess we can do a little bit of that with Graph as it is already. And that's what the community's done to fill that gap.
Yep.
So very cool to see that here built into the admin center. So if you want to try that out, I'll make sure that this tweet and the link within the tweet get posted for this evening. Go ahead and give it a shot and provide feedback if you run into any issues. I know that we'd all love to see when it does go live, that it goes live with as few issues as possible, as I'm sure Mike would as well. Mike's been a busy man, it seems. I also came across, he's always a busy man, came across another tweet from him. So if any of you joining us today are managing Azure Virtual Desktop with Intune, there are AVD settings are now available in the settings catalog. So again, we continue to see incremental additions to the settings catalog, which allows for a bunch of more consistency across the platform and more easy to use and understand settings in general. I think the consistency has been one of the bigger things, but we like to see that things continue to head towards using the settings catalog. Still in Intune world here. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think all of my updates today are surrounding Intune. Service release 2309 for Intune came out last week, finished rolling out, I believe, last week. And there were a couple of things that I wanted to point out here. So we have the config refresh that we've talked about a little bit for Windows Insider. This will allow you to sort of reapply settings that have already been applied to your devices, like a group policy update. A lot of mobile device updates, which are not really in mine and Johan's purview, but if you are managing iOS, macOS, Android with Intune, you're probably going to want to take a look at these updates. But there were two other things that I wanted to point out. So there was another rename from Microsoft. Windows Defender Application Control is now renamed as App Control for Business. And so with 2309, that naming change should be reflected in all of the docs and the Intune Admin Center itself. So if you are using Defender Application Control and now App Control for Business, just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that change. And another update that Microsoft's been working on, rather a whole slew of updates that they've been working on over the course of a while now. Another one of their updates, reports, excuse me. The update rings for Windows 10 and later report has been updated to use Intune's newer reporting infrastructure. So typically when these updates come through, we see a little bit easier to use report, runs a little bit faster. What would you say? It's been maybe a year or so that they've been working through these, Johan?
I'll say so, yeah.
Yeah. So good to see these things continue to be updated. These quality of life updates, much like the export and import of the settings catalog profiles, are big. I know for a lot of you and I get asked about these often and have to deal with some of the shortcomings ourselves. So.
And that's what you can expect of a platform that is by its own right, becoming more mature as more people are starting to use it and more requests are coming in. And it's nice to see. I like it.
Absolutely. We celebrate continuous improvement here, that's for sure.
Yeah. So now we have WFB and ACFB. Is that how you pronounce it? The application control from business.
That sounds about right. And we now have Edge for business too, as of a week or two ago.
FB, ACFB,
FB,
FB, WFB. Yeah. Not to be said in the same sentence, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, little confusing, but here we are. Last thing I had was the Intune Debug Toolkit that we've discussed from our friends over at MS Endpoint Manager, was updated to version 2.2. One of the things that I wanted to highlight in this release, now there were a few updates here. Autopilot prereqs tool was updated, a couple of other updates here, but PetriScript Get-IntuneManagementExtensionDiagnostics was added to this project, and consequently, that script happened to also be updated to version 2.0 last week, which includes a nice HTML report that gives some additional information now and sort of gives a timeline on the management extension logs, as well as, I thought you would find this very cool, Johan, app download stats. So any of the apps that come down through the Intune management extension now has this nice little report that you can see basically how long it took to download, the size, and delivery optimization percentage. I think that addition to the script was made for you.
Yeah, well, I like it. Good stuff.
No, this is excellent stuff. So again, some great stuff coming out of Microsoft over the last week, as well as from the community. So I'll make sure all of these links get posted this evening.
All right, then. Thank you, sir. I talked a little bit last week about the 80K changes, and I have done some blogging since, or updating my blog since. So if we do this and this, here's a blog post that I put together on how to address the missing VBScript support should you need it in this latest 80K for September or from September. This is a workaround or temporary workaround until Microsoft releases or produces an official fix, which I hope they will. No guarantees, but it sounded like they were working on something at least. Long story short, I got some great help from community figuring this out, and a special shout out to Avi here for pointing out that you can borrow binaries from the Azure Stack HCI release that was released or published this summer for the preview program for Azure Stack. And that led me into almost a bit of a rabbit hole. But long story short, it turned out that the later insider preview for Windows 11, meaning the preview for Windows 11 23 H2, if you don't mind borrowing some of its online capabilities, feature on demands for that release here, you can snatch them from this folder during installation, and you can inject them into your either MDT environment if you want to continue to be able to use MDT with Windows 11 unsupported but still works, or if you want to add that into your ConfigMgr boot images. So that was a late addition last week, but I put that script down here. Somewhat simple PowerShell script, but it will allow you to specify a boot image that you have, where you download the feature updates to, and the script takes care of the rest and builds you a ConfigMgr boot image that has based on that update. The reason we want this update, even though it's a bit borked, it's because it does contain the fix for the secure boot issue that was detected earlier this year and was fixed in May with the security patch. The challenge with that patch, it needed to go into the boot image. And if you added it to the boot image and you later added that to ConfigMgr and added in components, congratulations, you have to patch it again with a cumulative update. So that would be painful. But with the new version, you don't have to do that. So nice touch there. We'll share these links, of course. Another happy news in its own little way is Mike Koster has a working certificate on his site. I was about to show something on that site during a training the day before yesterday, so meaning Monday, and I went in there and I was met by this nice certificate not valid. Like, what, man? I've been here thousands of times before. So I reached out to Mike and he fixed it right away. And that gave me an opportunity to share something that most people actually do not know. Mike, many years ago, like 12, he wrote a versioning module, an event handler for ConfigMgr sequences. That little VBScript still works today. So I'll share this link, of course, but in ConfigMgr, if you work with sequences and you accidentally do something incredibly stupid, like deleting a sequence, or if you have a team of people working with sequences and someone else then you delete the sequence, or you mess up or overwrite something that you shouldn't have, the only way to get back that is to do a complete restore of the entire site server. I was like, that's a little bit too much work to restore a single sequence. So when you register Mike's event handler, that you just run the script, you specify a path in the script. I can actually show it. I have it here somewhere. On one of these servers, I have it. Promise. Boom. I have a lot of folders. Here's the script. You specify a path where you want your stuff, and then you run the script. And from that moment on, every time you update the sequence, you get an export of it here. So if I go to one of my, let's see what I have. That was not a sequence, was it? This is a sequence, or a few of them. This sequence here, memorize that package ID, it's ending on 41F. If I go to that folder where I have these files and search for PS10041F, I have that folder. If I open that folder, these are all my version changes of this sequence. So every time I do an edit, I get a copy automatically exported here. And worst case, I can always import it and restore it, or at least go in and view the changes, because it's actually quite fun, or I think it's fun, to open up these XML objects and just see, okay, what is it that config manager is actually doing behind the scenes here? What executables are they calling, etc. So that was all that I had on that one.
That's pretty cool.
All right, thank you. Shout out to the community. Hi, Matt. Good to have you back here on in the audience. And I also got a question coming in just before we started. I got a question coming in on LinkedIn regarding custom attributes in Config Manager for discovery. The challenge this gentleman were having was that he had attribute in AD that contains multiple values. And when you configure, if I would go over here and go to where you set up the discovery methods, and this is where you can go in and say, I would like to inventory either existing attributes that might be available, and you can also add in custom attributes here that you have defined or created, but they only take one value as far as I know. I haven't found a way to have it go in and grab multiple values in an attribute. If anyone happen to know a trick around it, if you may know, maybe know, Andrew, let me know and I'll be happy to share that information. The only workaround I can think of right now is basically saving that somewhere else and collect it through hardware inventory or something clever. Any ideas, Andrew?
Not off the top of my head, no. But I can play around with that a little bit too.
All right, perfect.
All right. So we do have a couple of other questions that have come in.
Right.
Matt's got one over here on YouTube. How do you configure quality updates via Intune and block feature updates at the same time?
Well, that's an Andrew question right there.
I have some thoughts because I don't believe I was playing around with this a little bit. Johan, if you want to share my screen, I've got an update ring pulled up here.
Yep. Coming right there, sir.
Thank you. The only thing that I can think of really are some safeguards, basically, at least off the top of my head. You can set the feature update deferral period out to 1 year, no further than that. You can set the uninstall period out to 60 days, and then the deadline out even further. I don't remember. I think 30 is the max for the feature update deadline. So that will get you out to a little over a year before the feature update is offered and required to install. Alongside that, what I would do is, if I don't want feature updates going out to a specific set of devices, is probably take and create a feature update policy in Intune and set that to the version of Windows that I want my devices to stay at for the moment. And then you can use those two policies in conjunction with each other. That's kind of where my head's at on it. Does that sound reasonable to you as well?
Yeah, it was way better than what I came up with. So yes.
All right. Happy to hear that. I don't hear that every day.
It involved VBScripts and smacking down policies brutally on the device. No.
Hey, that will likely prevent your feature updates from coming down.
Yeah, but it's centrally managed, though. The jury's out on that one.
Yes. So those two things in combination with each other should give you enough time. I see Matt had a follow up here. Safeguards require a profile. Correct. So with your update rings, deferrals way out, and your feature update policy locked at a certain version. Well, if you actually go through, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, if you do the feature update policy and lock your devices at a certain version, I use that term loosely, you won't need to set the deferral because that will be controlled by you and your feature update policies. So I actually made it a little bit more challenging even with my first response.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So we've got a question coming in from Facebook. Could you please send the link to the modern drivers and BIOS management you had session that you had back in September?
Yeah. If you nicely go up to the Academy website and hit the free stuff up there on the menu, there will be the second one.
Right there.
So that one is available for on-demand view. It's an hour and a half goodness on modern driver and BIOS management. Good show to put on for a Friday evening. In friends, it's popcorn,
absolutely
beer.
Oh, it's a party.
Heck yeah.
All right, I grabbed that link, so I'll make sure that gets posted this evening as well.
Thank you.
All right, question over here on YouTube. Are we able to grant Microsoft Entra groups for folder permission on a Microsoft Entra joined device? I have a little bit of a shocked face because I haven't done it. So if you've got
something posted like earlier this week or late last week around controlling access to local, like shared folders on premises, there were some updates to that one. I just don't remember what it was.
Interesting.
Memory, Andrew. Don't get old. I mean, it's
I'm trying not to, and it just keeps happening. I keep getting a year older every year.
find that post again. Or something just showed up on Twitter. If it was a new feature or something. Entra permissions management might have been that. Uh, no, that seems to be for cloud resources. I can show the link what I thought it was. Obviously, I was wrong, but this was, I think, the one that flashed by this week as something that was updated.
Do you want to share your screen?
Aha, I mean that will help.
A little.
Yeah, so that was this one that I saw. I haven't been able to read up on this one what the pricing and functionality is, but I saw this one flashing out in the news. There are plenty of resources on how to like map network drives and other stuff, but for specific permissions, I do not know.
Get the sense that we're going to have to spring for a couple of add-on licenses here soon.
Yeah, I guess.
To play around with some of these new things. Yeah, there's that. And does one of the endpoint privilege management add-ons do anything with that? Yeah. Okay. Oh, there was a follow-up here. The use cases in education set permissions for teachers and or prevent students on a local folder.
I want to see and share level permissions. One thing that comes to mind. They have to board that one, I think. Uh, if anyone happen to know, let us know, and we're happy to share it. All right, what else?
All right. I am question from Benny here on YouTube. I'm seeing a lot of unknown in SCCM for patching. What is the best way to tackle this apart from looking at the logs on each machine?
I mean, unknown basically is well, what the word means that the client didn't report for whatever reason up the status to the server, or something happened during that. And since the server doesn't know about it, you kind of have to go to the client for troubleshooting. But that doesn't mean you have to remote into the client and do that. There are options in ConfigMgr to collect log files directly from clients that will get uploaded through actually the software inventory feature up to the site service. You can grab it from one of the inbox folders and review them over there. You can implement your own little health check routines. We have covered that several times here in office hours, where you find metrics and then you have your own scheduled task or something that runs on the client on a regular basis that will monitor this information or look for certain errors that you find common in your environment. It's often about finding those data points that is unique to your organization and see how many of those you have and see if you can address them. But I don't know of any other way of troubleshooting stuff like that without actually getting my hands on that data somehow.
All right. All right. Let's see, we've got a couple more here. We've got a hello from Jamal. Hey, Jamal.
Hello back.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the good
Um,
question. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, let's see. We've got a question from Matt here for configuring SCCM devices to look at Windows updates if WSUS is not available. Can that be done by using dual scan? And then a follow up, I sent a link. Hopefully, it's not blocked. It looks like if you sent it through YouTube, it did get blocked. But it's using ConfigMgr with Windows 10, Windows Update for Business deferral policies from Microsoft. So, just to, the original question: can I configure SCCM devices to look at Windows Update if WSUS is not available?
I wouldn't say if not available, but you can definitely use, I don't recommend it, but you can configure dual scan policies for a config managed platform. I don't like the idea personally to have clients asking multiple authorities for updates. That ad has been interesting in the past where suddenly clients are getting updates that I had no idea about. And I start to reboot in the middle of the day and just, no. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but yeah, the platform supports it. I can't think of any organization that I met that is actively using it. Most organizations are trying to get away from using it.
Mhm.
Anything that comes to mind from your end, Andrew?
No, I am kind of in the same camp. That adds to when you have a couple of different services that you can get the updates from. I mean, it just adds to so much confusion. You get into that situation where you're going, "Oh, we don't know what happened," so that's a challenge. The only time that I really um, want that to happen is with Defender definition updates. Those, go ahead and download them from wherever. But OS updates, application updates that are coming from Windows Update, I'm kind of in the same camp as you.
All right.
All right. So we had a follow up on the Entra group question. Amir had a follow up comment. I think you can add the Entra group to a local group using the netuse command and then use the local group for permission assignment to folders.
Possible. I cannot say I have tried, but thank you for the information. That is definitely something to test.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. And then Jamal's got a question here. In my SCCM console, I have multiple client settings showing similar priority numbers. That's causing a problem in assigning which one is assigned first. I don't want to delete it and recreate, but if there's a way to fix the priority ID, that would be great. I have not ever personally seen that. Have you?
I have not seen that they get the same number, but I have seen some older versions of config manager where I no longer could change the order. Normally, if I can share my screen and show. Basically, if you have an environment where you have these client settings, you are used to being able to shuffle them around, like decrease priority, increase priority, etc. Kind of hard to increase number one here because it's number one. But if I pick number 8 here, you will find that I can, let's see, bad number 6. I can either increase or decrease. I have seen this not working, but that was fixed like years ago. I have not seen them getting the same numbers. That is probably going to have to be one of those lovely support calls where you have an engineer with you holding hands and basically poke the database and change that number, change that priority number because something is probably up there. I don't know any method to work around that. I mean, obviously you can try. changing this and see what happens if it takes care of the number ordering by just moving a few arounds. But that's just a guess.
All right. Well, hopefully that helps. Matt's got another question here: how to get CSP for Intune OMA URI? Is there a list for those or a document?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
pretty much every CSP is documented. Whether you should use one in that shape is a bigger discussion, I think. I try to avoid those when I can. I have spent way too many hours play around with custom CSPs when doing device configuration profiles in Intune. It was typically back in the days where the settings catalog more or less didn't exist. And you have to do, in order to do things like CIS benchmarks and other common frameworks for applying security settings, those usually end up being a gazillion of custom baselines or custom CSPs or CSPs, all my URIs here. But these days, no. Settings catalog. Anything that you can find that you can do through here, I would recommend doing through there, because it will automatically give you some safeguards. Because some of those CSPs, when you create them, they are painful. You have to format it or populate it with a perfectly formatted XML file. And God forbid you have a single typo in that one, or sometimes even you have to insert characters with like an ASCII code just so that it be the right character. Just painful. As we usually say here in office hours, it's kind of hard to mess up a drop down while you select between two options. And the settings catalog provides that additional layer of configuration help. It's harder to mess things up. Anything you'd like to add there, sir?
Very well said. I agree.
All right. What else?
Let me see. I think we're all caught up at the moment, but we do still have 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on. If you have any questions, let us know.
Really, I don't know if I'll get around to it by next week, so I may regret saying this out loud live, but I'm really curious about the using an Entra group for permissions. That's a great question.
Sounds like you have your weekend planned out now.
Yeah, I knew I'd regret it.
All right, there was a question coming in on YouTube here. While waiting for questions, here's a question. All right, I get it. Can any one of you give a quick rundown on MDE versus MMA on Defender onboarding? That would be a hard no from my part. I mean, I know how to onboard devices to Defender for endpoint, but the other one I do not. Do you happen to know, sir?
I think if... one second. I'm just looking for something here. Yeah, so if that's referring to onboarding with the old Microsoft Monitoring Agent, the MMA, You can configure that in the client settings. You can share my screen if you want. I've
Yes,
got
sir.
these client settings up.
Yeah, coming here.
So if this is the reference here, for a long time, this setting was Microsoft Monitoring Agent MMA. You could deploy the legacy client, which has since been deprecated. And since I have been using Defender for Endpoint, I have only used the MDE client. So, Jamal, I don't think that totally answers your question. But the only way that I have onboarded is through using the MDE client, which is the newer client. I just simply when the legacy client was in place, I simply wasn't really dealing with Defender for Endpoint very much at that time. But of course, for onboarding, you can set these client settings here, and then the way that I'm most familiar with onboarding devices into Defender for Endpoint is going through the Intune Admin Center and either setting if I go to endpoint security, endpoint detection and response, you can onboard through this pane right here. And for servers, you can go this route. Or if you're tenant attached and you want to apply this policy directly to a ConfigMgr device collection, you can go this route as well. Um, Interesting. Okay, there's a follow up here. Tried today's server 2016, which shows the ATP log. Server 2016 was using MMA, while a 2012 R2 server was using MDE. Could not figure out why 2016 would take MMA instead of MDE, even though the policy is set for MDE. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that one's uh, out of my expertise. I have not come across that personally.
Yeah, me neither. Sorry about that. But if anyone happen to know, let us know. We'll be happy to share it.
Absolutely. All right. Matt was saying in his Entra Admin Center, identity protection setting is grayed out. Any idea why? So that would
Like on
be,
the dashboard, or
yes, is that a specific setting? Here, maybe? The identity protection?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind could possibly be permissions missing.
Mm-hmm.
That will make it not become available.
Because I don't know if you happen to know this, Johan, but I think that this area is still available even if you don't have an elevated P1 or P2 license, because you're still going
Oh,
to, yeah. I think permissions would be I think you're spot on there. I would check there first.
I mean, there are certainly licenses for it. No, even with the P1, you should see it. It's just that the next level gives you additional functionality for it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do not know why that one would be grayed out. Again, if anyone in the community happen to know why it may be grayed out and it's not happen to be either permissions or even licenses, let us know.
Yeah. Oh, we've got some good ones today. I wish we had some answers for a few of these, but like a good challenge.
Yep. Yeah, we may have seen a lot, but rarely everything.
Yes.
That's pretty much the old fulfillment, or basically, the more you learn, the more you need that there is to learn. It's
Yeah,
one of those. Okay,
so true.
it's just that wheel that never stops turning.
Yep.
You're right. Any other questions there? And I think we can help answering or try to. I don't see anything, but we still have a whopping 10 minutes to go here. So if you do have any questions, let us know. We are totally ready. I mean, I spent the entire day doing peer-to-peer training today, and 8 hours solid. That always makes you in a good mood. So I'm ready.
There you go. All right. So we do have a question here coming in. We have privileged access manager in place where we would have to log into it before RDPing to any server. Have you tried to automate it via script so one can directly gain access from a right click tool?
That will be a hard no. I have not.
Same.
Great question, but no, have not. One would assume there would be an option to at least send in the request through a script of sort. And of course, someone needs to approve the request.
I was just trying to see if I could find anything real quick.
I wouldn't be entirely surprised if the recast software people at some point will develop some tools for that platform. They have been absolutely instrumental for the ConfigMgr platform over almost 2 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Those right click tools, but nothing I've seen.
No, same here. I'm coming up short at the moment as well, unfortunately.
Dang, we are being hammered hard today, like it should be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's good. It keeps us on our toes.
yeah. It's that good old saying, good story never started with a salad. So,
I saw that one the other day. That was
yeah,
when you were that was when you were testing your what pre alpha insider preview.
there was nothing that was ready code in that test for sure.
Did it all work?
Eventually, I deployed it, but there was some challenges along the way. Uh, Pulled it mightily. I remember I was reading one of my favorite books all time is a book from the early 90s. It's called Showstopper, a book that describes the development of Windows NT 3.1, the first Windows NT version ever released. And I remember the challenges they had at the end at Microsoft. They only a few hundred people, 250 people, give or take. They never know which part that was broken because everything was beta. The OS was never developed before. The development software was beta, and the hardware was beta. It's like nothing was like fully tested. So half of the time they had to figure out, is it the hardware that is broken or the CPU that is broken here, or is it our code, or is the actual just the whatever coding language tool they were using at the time. But that's it's an amazing book and give you great insight to what was going on in the early days of MT. Highly recommend reading it.
Awesome.
I
I
bet
have
you
to
we
put
can find a link to it still up on Amazon. Forgot his name. Was it Jay something? See if I can find it. Yeah, I found it. George Pascal. I'll go ahead and share that link just because I can.
right. I have to put that on the list.
Yeah, this one, brilliant book. Absolute brilliant book. And you learn a good chunk of pranks that you can do in your office as well.
Ooh,
Yeah, like replacing floor with grass in someone's office or slowly moving the wall like an inch every day without them noticing.
yeah.
Just the
Until
office gets
eventually
smaller.
one day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sidebar, but great book, great read. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. We've got a couple of questions that did come in that I think might take us to the end here, so I want to make sure that we
Yay.
get to them.
Yeah.
Do either of you know about the default user 1000 temporary user account, which sometimes gets created on the first login using an Azure AD account? We often get recently imaged and deployed machines going out of compliance because of our password policies, and that account turned out to be the culprit.
No. I'm assuming it's a variant of the default user zero account that may show up in the regular deployment, but it's not something I've stumbled across otherwise.
No, me either. And to be honest, if I was running across it, I probably would have come to you first to ask. I'll
There
have to see.
are
I've
some resources around it, but not much from sort of an authoritative source.
some forum posts I'm finding, which Amir, I'm sure you've run across yourself if you've been battling this for a little while. I'm guessing you're finding the same type of thing, Johan.
Yeah, pretty much. Some were having an idea that it might be created by a browser component somehow. That doesn't sound very likely, but I leave that one unanswered. Do not know what those are.
All right. And then last question here, I think, well, unless we get it finished early, do you recommend converting Windows internal database to SQL database? Our environment is using Windows internal database for their WSUS needs, which I wanted to switch to SQL since I'm personally more confident using SQL.
Yeah, SQL Server is definitely the better option for the SAS database. And it's in fact the only other database that you are allowed to use the ConfigMgr SQL license for. Everything else is requiring a license. So that was something Microsoft added in some clarification to a while ago on their website, because folks were using the ConfigMgr database or that SQL license for any type of database that I would have on that server. And that license does not qualify for that. SQL Server license, SCCM. Should be able to find something real quick. Yeah, I found it. Let's see where that link went. Yeah, this is the one. So this information, approved use rights for SQL Server, and WSUS being one of them. Of course, reporting services would be another, but you cannot have anything else that is basically there to support ConfigMgr components. So now I highly recommend to use this one over Windows Internal Database. There are some limitations on the WID database. Not that you will maybe run it in, but that there are indeed limits for the internal database on memory usage and whatnot. I think they removed the size limit at one point, but I wouldn't even bother. Here's a post on how to migrate away from it. So yeah.
Right.
All right. We made it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone, for the great questions. Solid hour.
Yeah. It's a good thing when we get stumped.
Yeah.
Great questions today, really.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We hope to see you again next week. And until then, have a great rest of your week here.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.